The blizzard howls around Winthrop Manor 1927, sealing its secrets in snow. Sir Reginald Winthrop lies dead in a locked library, blood staining his velvet robe. A shattered glass, a toppled candelabrum, and whispers of the Winthrop curse, a vengeful spirit, haunt the air. Was it a ghost or a cunning killer? Hercule Poirot, summoned to this Yorkshire estate, sees through the myth. Why is the lock scratched? Who saw the shadow in the storm? As motives, greed, revenge, betrayal, emerge among the trapped household, Poirot's grey cells hunt a truth as cold as the snow-dark night. Chapter 1. The Blizzard's Secret. The winter of 1927 cloaked Yorkshire in a merciless blizzard, and Winthrop Manor stood defiant, its stone facade battered by howling winds. The manor's windows glowed like amber eyes, promising warmth within, but the air inside was thick with dread. Sir Reginald Winthrop, titan of industry and master of the estate, lay dead in his locked library, a crimson stain blooming across his velvet robe, stark against the polished oak floor. His lifeless eyes stared at the vaulted ceiling, as if seeking answers in the shadows. A shattered brandy glass glinted nearby, its contents seeping into the Persian rug, and a heavy silver candelabrum lay toppled, its candles snuffed out. Snow piled against the sealed windows, undisturbed, as if the storm itself guarded the room's secrets. The household whispered of the Winthrop curse, a spectral vow, born of a wronged ancestor, to claim the family's eldest son. Yet, to Hercule Poirot, summoned by a cryptic telegram from the widow, this was no ghostly deed. The little Belgian detective, his moustache impeccably waxed despite the journey's rigours, surveyed the scene with piercing green eyes. Something was amiss, and his grey cells stirred with anticipation. Poirot had arrived at dusk, his motor car battling the snowdrifts that rendered the roads near impassable. The telegram, penned in Eleanor Winthrop's elegant hand, had been urgent. Come at once. Reginald dead. Curse suspected. Manor isolated. Poirot, ever sceptical of the supernatural, accepted the challenge, intrigued by the locked room's puzzle. Now standing in the library, he noted the details with precision. The key in Sir Reginald's pocket, the absence of footprints in the snow outside, the faint scent of laudanum lingering in the air. The door, bolted from within, suggested an impossible crime, yet Poirot's mind rejected impossibility. Murder, he murmured, is always possible when motive exists. The household gathered in the drawing room, their faces a tableau of grief, fear, and suspicion. Eleanor Winthrop, the widow, sat rigidly, her black mourning gown accentuating her pallor. Her eyes, red-rimmed, darted nervously, clutching a lace handkerchief as if it could anchor her composure. Dr. Malcolm Hargrove, family friend and physician, stood by the fireplace, his spectacles reflecting the flames. He spoke of Sir Reginald's weak heart, suggesting a natural death. But his fingers twitched, betraying unease. Beatrice Langley, the victim's niece, paced like a caged panther, her auburn hair catching the lamplight. She scoffed at talk of curses, her voice sharp with defiance, yet her clenched fists hinted at deeper rage. Victor Crane, Sir Reginald's business partner, lounged in an armchair, his polished cufflinks gleaming, but his forced nonchalance fooled no one. Margaret Maggie Dunham, the maid, hovered at the room's edge, her plain face unreadable, her hands trembling as she adjusted her apron. Poirot observed them all, noting the undercurrents of motive. Inheritance for Eleanor, debts for Victor, resentment for Beatrice, and something unspoken in Maggie's silence. Dr. Hargrove's medical knowledge, too, piqued Poirot's interest. Each was a piece in the puzzle, and Poirot relished the challenge of their assembly. The library's locked door was the first enigma. Poirot examined it closely, his gloved fingers tracing the bolt. A faint scratch marred the lock's surface, barely visible, suggesting tampering. He knelt by the candelabrum, its heavy base oddly pristine despite its fall. Why had it toppled, yet remained untouched by the snow that should have blown in if the window had been opened? The brandy glass, too, was curious, its shards scattered, yet the liquid had not fully dried, hinting at a recent spill. Poirot's mind whirred. The scene was staged, he was certain, but by whom? And to what end? The Winthrop curse, Beatrice had explained, stemmed from a 17th century betrayal. An ancestor, wronged by a rival, swore vengeance on the family line. Sir Reginald, a rationalist, had dismissed it, yet his recent diary entries, found on his desk, revealed a growing unease. "Noises in the night," he wrote. "The curse feels near." Poirot's lips curved. A convenient myth, perhaps, to mask a human hand. Eleanor's voice broke the silence, tremulous yet controlled. "Monsieur Poirot, do you believe in spirits?" she asked, her gaze fixed on the frost-covered windows. Poirot tilted his head, his tone measured. "Madame, I believe in the ingenuity of man, which is far more dangerous than any ghost." His words hung in the air, met by uneasy glances. Dr. Hargrove cleared his throat, offering to show Poirot Sir Reginald's medical records, but Poirot waved him off, his attention drawn to Maggie. The maid's eyes flicked to the window, and she gasped, pointing. "There, a shadow!" All turned, but the glass revealed only swirling snow. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Was it a trick of the storm? Or had someone lingered outside watching? The blizzard howled, as if daring him to uncover the truth. Poirot returned to the library, alone now, the firelight casting long shadows. He paced, reconstructing the scene. Sir Reginald, alone, sipping brandy, the locked door, the sudden collapse. The laudanum scent suggested poisoning, but how was it administered? And why the candelabrum's fall? It was too heavy to topple by accident, yet its position suggested intent. Poirot's fingers brushed the desk, where a torn letter lay in the ashes of the fireplace. He retrieved a fragment, reading the word betrayal in Sir Reginald's hand. A clue, or another misdirection. The storm outside intensified, sealing the manor in a cocoon of snow. Poirot straightened, his mind alight. The killer was among them, hidden in plain sight, and the shadow Maggie saw, if real, was the key to unlocking the manor's secrets. Chapter 2. The Morning Circle. The drawing-room of Winthrop Manor was a study in opulence and unease, its mahogany panelling and crystal chandelier dimmed by the weight of suspicion. The blizzard outside roared, sealing the household in a prison of snow, while within, Hercule Poirot stood at the room's centre, his compact frame radiating authority. His green eyes, sharp as cut glass, swept over the assembled mourners, each a potential player in the drama of Sir Reginald Winthrop's death. The air was thick with the scent of beeswax and coal smoke, undercut by the faint tang of fear. Poirot adjusted his impeccable cuffs, his moustache a perfect crescent, and began his inquiry, his voice measured yet commanding. "Mes amis," he said, "a crime has been committed, and the truth lies among you. Let us uncover it, non?" Eleanor Winthrop sat nearest the fire, her morning gown absorbing the light, her face a mask of grief that did not quite reach her eyes. She twisted her lace handkerchief, her fingers betraying a nervous energy. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice tremulous, "surely this was the curse. Reginald was healthy, save for his heart. No one could have entered that library." Poirot tilted his head, noting her quick defense of the supernatural. Was it genuine belief, or a shield for guilt? Her inheritance, millions in shipping and steel, made her a figure of interest. Yet her darting glances suggested fear, not just of loss, but of discovery. Dr. Malcolm Hargrove, the family physician, stood by the mantel, his spectacles catching the firelight. A man of middle years, his scholarly air was marred by a twitch in his jaw as he spoke. Sir Reginald's heart was weak, he insisted, adjusting his tie. I warned him to avoid stress, but he was stubborn. Perhaps the curse talk overwhelmed him. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Hargrove's medical expertise gave him access to Sir Reginald's habits, and to substances like laudanum, whose faint scent Poirot had detected in the library. The doctor's calm demeanour seemed practised, and Poirot wondered what secrets lay behind his clinical facade. Beatrice Langley, the victim's niece, paced the room's edge, her auburn curls bouncing with each defiant step. Her emerald dress clashed with the sombre mood, a deliberate rebellion. "This cursed nonsense is absurd," she snapped, her voice cutting through the tension. "Uncle Reginald was murdered, and you all know it." Her accusation hung in the air, drawing gasps from Eleanor and a frown from Hargrove. Beatrice's disinheritance, rumoured after a public quarrel, gave her motive, yet her candour intrigued Poirot. Was her anger a mask for guilt, or a genuine cry for justice? Her eyes, blazing with defiance, met Poirot's, daring him to challenge her. Victor Crane, Sir Reginald's business partner, lounged in a velvet armchair, his polished cufflinks glinting like beacons. His easy smile was a poor disguise for the sweat beading his brow. "Let's not jump to conclusions," he said, his tone light but strained. "Reginald was under pressure, business troubles, you know. Maybe he just collapsed." Poirot noted Victor's fidgeting hands, the telltale sign of a man with debts. Sir Reginald's shipping empire was Victor's lifeline, and its collapse would ruin him. His nonchalance was a performance, and Poirot intended to see it falter. Margaret Maggie Dunham, the maid, stood apart, her plain grey dress blending into the shadows. Her hands, rough from years of service, trembled as she adjusted her apron, her eyes fixed on the floor. When Poirot addressed her, she flinched, her voice barely a whisper. "I only found him, sir, lying there, dead." Her reticence intrigued Poirot. Maid saw everything, yet Maggie's silence suggested more than fear. Had she witnessed something she dared not speak? Her trembling hands and downcast gaze hinted at a burden heavier than grief. Poirot paced, his polished shoes clicking on the parquet floor as he began to weave his questions. "Madam Winthrop," he said, turning to Eleanor, "when did you last see your husband alive?" She hesitated, her fingers tightening on the handkerchief. "At midnight," she replied. "He said he wished to read in the library. I retired to my room." Poirot nodded, filing away the detail. He turned to Hargrove. "And you, Doctor, you examined Sir Reginald recently." Hargrove cleared his throat. "Yes, 2 days ago. His heart was strained, but stable." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Stable, yet dead within hours?" To Beatrice he asked, "Mademoiselle, you spoke of murder. Why so certain?" Beatrice's eyes flashed. "Because Uncle Reginald was too stubborn to die naturally. Someone wanted him gone. Someone in this room." Her accusation drew a sharp intake of breath from Victor, who protested, "That's reckless, Beatrice. We're all grieving." Poirot observed Victor's quick defence, his voice a shade too loud. "A man hiding something, perhaps?" Maggie remained silent, but Poirot caught her glance toward the window, where snow swirled in the lamplight. The detective's attention shifted to a discovery in the library. A torn letter, half burned in the fireplace, its fragments retrieved by his meticulous hand. The words were faint, but legible, Betrayal, shares, ruin. Sir Reginald's hand, unmistakably. Poirot held the fragment aloft, watching the room. Eleanor paled, Victor's smile faltered, and Beatrice's eyes narrowed. "What does it mean?" Poirot asked, his tone deceptively mild. No one answered, but the silence was eloquent. The letter suggested a conspiracy, business or personal, that had driven someone to murder. Poirot pressed Maggie, his voice gentle but firm. "Mademoiselle Dunham, you were awake in the night, no? What did you hear?" Maggie's eyes widened, her voice a whisper. "An argument, sir, in the library. Voices, angry ones. I couldn't make out the words." Poirot leaned closer. "Whose voices?" Maggie shook her head, trembling. I don't know. It was late, near 2 in the morning." Her fear was palpable, and Poirot sensed she knew more than she dared say. An argument, hours after Eleanor's claimed departure, suggested opportunity, and a second person in the locked room. The tension in the room snapped like a taut wire when Maggie gasped, pointing to the window. "There! Again!" All turned, hearts pounding, to see a shadow flicker beyond the frost-covered glass, indistinct yet human in shape. Poirot moved swiftly, peering into the storm, but the figure, if it was one, had vanished. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, his mind racing. Was it a trick of the blizzard, or had someone braved the snow to watch them? The household stared, frozen, as the wind howled a warning. Poirot's grey cells hummed. The shadow, real or imagined, was a clue, and he would unravel its meaning. He returned to the group, his voice calm but commanding attention. "Mes amis, the truth is close, but it hides behind lies. Someone in this room knows more than they say." His eyes lingered on each suspect, reading their reactions. Eleanor's clenched hands, Hargrove's averted gaze, Beatrice's defiant stare, Victor's forced grin, Maggie's trembling silence. The letter, the argument, the shadow, all were threads in a tapestry of deceit. The blizzard outside was no match for the storm within Winthrop Manor, and Poirot was determined to clear the air. Clue, the torn letter and Maggie's overheard argument suggest a hidden conspiracy. Cliffhanger. Who cast the shadow outside, and what did they witness in the snow-dark night? Chapter 3. The Curse Unveiled. The blizzard's fury had not abated, wrapping Winthrop Manor in a shroud of snow that seemed to whisper secrets of its own. Within the manor's high-ceilinged library, Hercule Poirot stood alone, the silence broken only by the crackle of the fire and the distant howl of the wind. The room, with its towering bookshelves and heavy velvet drapes, felt like a stage set for tragedy. Sir Reginald Winthrop's body had been removed, but the crimson stain on the rug remained, a grim reminder of the crime. Poirot's polished shoes clicked softly as he circled the scene, his green eyes darting from the shattered brandy glass to the toppled candelabrum, its silver base gleaming under the chandelier's light. The faint scent of laudanum lingered, a clue that refused to be ignored. The Winthrop curse, so fervently discussed by the household, was a spectre Poirot intended to banish with logic. His grey cells, ever restless, churned through the details, seeking the human hand behind the supernatural facade. Poirot's attention turned to a leather-bound diary on Sir Reginald's desk, its pages yellowed but meticulously kept. He opened it, his gloved fingers turning to the final entries. The industrialist's precise script revealed a growing unease. January 12, 1927, read one entry. Noises in the night, footsteps perhaps or the wind, the curse weighs heavy. Another dated the day before his death. I cannot shake the feeling of eyes upon me. Is it the curse, or my own folly? Poirot's moustache twitched, Sir Reginald, a man of reason, had been shaken by the family legend, a tale of a vengeful spirit born of a 17th century betrayal, sworn to strike the Winthrop patriarchs. Yet, Poirot suspected the diary's fears were exploited, a convenient mask for murder. He summoned Beatrice Langley to the library, her fiery presence a contrast to the room's sombre air. Her emerald dress rustled as she entered, her auburn curls catching the firelight. "Mademoiselle," Poirot began, his voice smooth but probing, "tell me of this Winthrop curse. You dismissed it, yet your uncle believed." Beatrice's eyes flashed with disdain. "It's a fairy tale for fools," she snapped. "A wronged ancestor, a ghostly vow, rubbish. Uncle Reginald only cared because he was losing his nerve, fretting over business and family squabbles." She paused, her voice softening. "He was obsessed lately, reading old records, locking himself away. I thought he was just tired." Poirot noted her shift in tone, anger masking grief, perhaps, or guilt. Her disinheritance gave her reason to resent Sir Reginald, but her candour intrigued him. Was she too bold to be the killer, or bold enough to play innocent? Poirot returned to the crime scene, kneeling by the rug where the brandy glass lay shattered. The laudanum scent was unmistakable, faint but potent, suggesting poison. He examined the decanter on the sideboard, its crystal stopper intact, but a trace of residue caught his eye. He sniffed carefully, laudanum cleverly mixed. Someone had tampered with Sir Reginald's nightly drink, but who had access? Poirot's mind raced. The locked door, the scratched lock, the staged candelabrum, all pointed to a calculated act, not a spectral one. He recalled Eleanor's claim that Sir Reginald avoided sedatives, yet Dr. Hargrove had mentioned prescribing laudanum for insomnia. A contradiction or a lie? Eleanor Winthrop was next, gliding into the library with the grace of a mourner, though her eyes betrayed calculation. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice soft but strained. Reginald was a skeptic. This curse talk, it was unlike him. Poirot tilted his head. "Yet his diary, madame, speaks of fear. And the laudanum? Did he take it regularly?" Eleanor's fingers tightened on her handkerchief. "Never. He despised it. Said it clouded his mind." Her denial was swift, but Poirot caught a flicker of unease. Was she protecting herself or someone else? Her inheritance, control of Winthrop Industries, made her a suspect, yet her fear seemed genuine. Poirot pressed gently. "And who prepared his brandy each night?" Eleanor hesitated. "Maggie, usually. But anyone could have touched the decanter." Dr. Hargrove entered at Poirot's request, his scholarly air tinged with nervousness. "Doctor," Poirot said, holding up the diary, "Sir Reginald feared the curse, yet you spoke of his heart. Did you prescribe laudanum?" Hargrove adjusted his spectacles, his voice steady but strained. "Yes, sparingly, for sleeplessness, but he rarely took it. I checked his pulse 2 days ago, weak but not fatal." Poirot's eyes narrowed. Hargrove's access to laudanum and his presence in the manor made him a candidate, yet his defensiveness suggested more than professional concern. "And the brandy, doctor? Did you see it poured?" Hargrove shook his head. "No, I retired early." Poirot dismissed them, his mind turning to Maggie Dunham. The maid's reticence gnawed at him. He found her in the servants' hall, polishing silver with trembling hands. "Mademoiselle," he said gently, "you prepared Sir Reginald's brandy, oui?" Maggie nodded, her eyes downcast. "Yes, sir, every night. I left it on the sideboard at midnight." Her voice quavered, and Poirot leaned closer. "And the argument you heard, who was it?" Maggie's lips parted, then closed. "I couldn't tell, sir. It was muffled, angry. I swear I didn't see." Her fear was palpable, but Poirot sensed truth in her evasion. She knew something, but terror held her tongue. The detective returned to the drawing-room, where Victor Crane lingered, his cufflinks catching the lamplight. "Monsieur Crane," Poirot said, his tone deceptively mild, "your business with Sir Reginald, was it troubled?" Victor's smile was strained. "All businesses have ups and downs, monsieur. We were negotiating a deal, nothing unusual." Poirot noted the lie. The torn letter's mention of betrayal and shares suggested deeper conflict. Victor's debts were no secret, and Sir Reginald's death could secure his financial survival. Yet his charm was too polished, his answers too quick. Poirot stepped to the window, the snow beyond a relentless curtain. The shadow Maggie had seen, twice now, haunted his thoughts. Was it a trick of the storm, or a witness lurking in the cold? He re-examined the library's lock, the scratch more pronounced in the morning light. A duplicate key, perhaps, crafted by a skilled hand. The laudanum, the diary, the letter, all pointed to a human plot, cloaked in the curse's myth. Poirot's grey cells hummed. The killer had exploited Sir Reginald's fears, but a mistake had been made. The candelabram's fall, the brandy's residue, these were not the work of a ghost, but of a cunning mind. As the household reconvened, Beatrice's voice cut through the tension. "Monsieur Poirot, you're wasting time. The curse is a lie. Someone poisoned him." Her accusation drew gasps, but Poirot raised a hand. "Patience, mademoiselle. The truth emerges, step by step." He turned to the group, his voice calm but piercing. The laudanum was no accident. Someone knew Sir Reginald's habits, his fears. Who among you had access to his private stock? The question hung, unanswered, as the blizzard roared, sealing their secrets tighter. Eleanor's eyes widened, Hargrove's hands twitched, and Maggie's gaze dropped. Poirot smiled faintly. The net was tightening, and the snow-dark truth was near. Chapter 4. Shadows of Motive. The blizzard's howl was a constant companion in Winthrop Manor, its icy grip tightening around the snowbound estate. Hercule Poirot stood in the drawing-room, the fire casting flickering shadows across the faces of the assembled household. The air was heavy with suspicion, each glance a silent accusation. Poirot's green eyes, sharp beneath his waxed moustache, studied the suspects. Eleanor Winthrop's strained elegance, Dr. Malcolm Hargrove's nervous fidgeting, Beatrice Langley's defiant glare, Victor Crane's forced charm, and Maggie Dunham's trembling silence. The Winthrop curse lingered in their minds, but Poirot saw only human motives, greed, revenge, desperation, cloaked in superstition. His grey cells hummed, piecing together the puzzle of Sir Reginald's death. Poirot began with Victor Crane, whose polished cufflinks glinted as he shifted in his chair. "Monsieur Crane," Poirot said, his voice smooth but probing, "your business with Sir Reginald, was it harmonious?" Victor's laugh was hollow. "Business is never harmonious, Monsieur Poirot. Reginald and I had disagreements, but nothing serious." Poirot's moustache twitched. The torn letter he'd found, half burned in the library's fireplace, told a different story. Its fragments, betrayal, shares, ruin, hinted at a rift. Victor's debts were notorious, and Sir Reginald's death could secure his financial survival. Yet, Poirot pressed, a letter suggests otherwise. Why did Sir Reginald write of betrayal? Victor's smile faltered, his eyes darting to Eleanor. "I don't know," he muttered. Poirot noted the lie. Beatrice Langley was next, her auburn curls bouncing as she strode forward, her voice sharp. "Monsieur Poirot, why waste time? Uncle Reginald was poisoned, and Victor's debts are no secret." Her accusation drew a gasp from Eleanor, but Poirot raised a hand. "Mademoiselle, your own quarrel with your uncle is known. Disinheritance is a powerful motive, non?" Beatrice's eyes blazed. "I hated his decision, yes. He called me reckless, cut me out of his will, but I didn't kill him." Her candour was disarming, yet Poirot wondered if her anger concealed a darker act. She admitted confronting Sir Reginald the night before his death, her voice rising with defiance. "He was alive when I left him," she insisted. Poirot filed away the detail, sensing truth laced with omission. Maggie Dunham lingered at the room's edge, her hands twisting her apron. Poirot approached her gently, his tone coaxing. "Mademoiselle, you heard an argument in the library. Tell me more." Maggie's eyes widened, her voice a whisper. "It was late, sir, near 2 a.m. Angry voices, Sir Reginald and someone else. I couldn't make out the words, but it was heated." Poirot leaned closer. "And the voice? Who was it?" Maggie shook her head, trembling. "I don't know, sir. I swear." Her fear was genuine, but Poirot sensed she recognized the voice. A maid's ears missed little, yet her silence spoke volumes. Eleanor Winthrop, poised by the fire, flinched as Poirot turned to her. "Madame, your husband's diary spoke of fear. Did he confide in you?" Eleanor's handkerchief twisted tighter. "He was troubled, yes, but he dismissed the curse. Said it was business worries." Her voice wavered, and Poirot noted her evasion. The inheritance, control of Winthrop Industries, made her a suspect, yet her fear seemed to stem from more than grief. "And the brandy, madame? Who had access?" Eleanor hesitated. "Maggie poured it, but it sat on the sideboard. Anyone could have touched it." Poirot's eyes narrowed. The laudanum scent in the library suggested poison, and Eleanor's quick deflection piqued his suspicion. Dr. Hargrove, adjusting his spectacles, offered a clinical defence. Sir Reginald's heart was weak. Stress, perhaps the curse talk, could have triggered a collapse. Poirot's smile was thin. "Yet, doctor, the laudanum suggests otherwise. You prescribed it, oui?" Hargrove nodded, uneasy. "Sparingly, for insomnia. He rarely took it." Poirot's mind raced. The laudanum, the scratched lock, the burned letter, all pointed to a staged crime, with the curse as a convenient veil. The argument Maggie overheard was a key, but whose voice had clashed with Sir Reginald's in the dead of night? The snow outside thickened, sealing the manor tighter. Poirot paced, his polished shoes clicking on the parquet. The letter's fragments burned in his mind. Betrayal, shares, ruin. Someone had motive enough to kill, and the argument suggested opportunity. Beatrice's rage, Victor's debts, Eleanor's greed, Hargrove's access, Maggie's silence. Each was a thread in a tangled web. Poirot paused by the window, where Maggie's shadow had twice appeared. Was it a witness, or the killer's misstep? His grey cells stirred, the truth tantalizingly close. Chapter 5. The Locked Door Puzzle. The blizzard's relentless wail battered Winthrop Manor, its snow-laden gusts sealing the estate in a cocoon of isolation. Within the library, Hercule Poirot stood alone, the fire's glow casting long shadows across the oak-panelled walls. The crimson stain on the rug, where Sir Reginald Winthrop had lain, was a silent accusation, and the shattered brandy glass glinted like a broken promise. Poirot's green eyes, sharp beneath his waxed moustache, lingered on the locked door, the heart of this enigma. No hidden passages, no forced entry, only a key found in Sir Reginald's pocket. Yet a faint scratch on the lock's brass surface whispered of tampering. Poirot's grey cells hummed, rejecting the Winthrop curse as a myth. This was murder, meticulously staged, and the door held the key to its unravelling. Poirot knelt by the lock, his gloved fingers tracing the scratch, a deliberate mark, suggesting a duplicate key or a skilled hand. The candelabrum, toppled yet pristine, puzzled him further. Its heavy silver base showed no signs of the snow that should have dusted it had the window been opened. The scene was theatrical. The locked door, the spilled brandy, the fallen candelabrum, all designed to suggest an impossible crime. But Poirot, ever the skeptic, saw human cunning, not spectral vengeance. The laudanum scent in the brandy decanter pointed to poison, and the scratch hinted at access. Someone had entered, killed, and locked the door behind them. But how, and who? He summoned Eleanor Winthrop, her morning gown a stark contrast to her pale, composed face. "Madam," Poirot said, his voice smooth but probing, "you last saw your husband at midnight, oui?" Eleanor nodded, her handkerchief twisting. "Yes, he was in the library reading. I went to bed." Her voice was steady, but her eyes flicked to the door. Poirot pressed further. "And the key, was it always in his pocket?" Eleanor hesitated. "I believe so. He was particular about locking the library." Poirot noted her pause. Her inheritance made her a suspect, and her calm demeanour seemed a fragile mask. Could she have slipped back to the library unnoticed? Dr. Malcolm Hargrove entered next, his spectacles glinting nervously. "Doctor," Poirot said, gesturing to the lock, "you saw Sir Reginald at 1 o'clock, no?" Hargrove nodded, his fingers twitching. "Yes, I checked on him. He was agitated, speaking of business worries. I left him alive." Poirot's moustache twitched. "And the door? Was it locked when you left?" Hargrove frowned. "I assume so. He always locked it." The vagueness was telling. Hargrove's access to laudanum and his late visit placed him in the frame, yet his unease suggested fear rather than guilt. Poirot wondered, was he protecting someone? Beatrice Langley stormed in, her auburn curls bouncing, her voice sharp. "Monsieur Poirot, this curse talk is nonsense. The lock was tampered with, wasn't it?" Poirot raised an eyebrow, impressed by her perception. "Perhaps, mademoiselle. But why do you suspect foul play?" Beatrice's eyes blazed. "Because Uncle Reginald was too stubborn to die naturally. Someone wanted him gone." Her disinheritance fueled her rage, but her directness intrigued Poirot. She admitted arguing with Sir Reginald the previous night, yet insisted he was alive when she left. Was her passion a cover, or a plea for justice? Maggie Dunham, summoned last, hovered by the door, her hands trembling. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said gently, "you poured the brandy at midnight. Did you lock the door?" Maggie shook her head. "No, sir. Sir Reginald locked it himself after I left." Her voice quavered, and Poirot recalled her overheard argument, angry voices at 2 a.m. "And the argument you heard, mademoiselle, who was it?" Maggie's eyes dropped. "I couldn't tell, sir. It was muffled." Her fear was palpable, and Poirot sensed she knew more than she dared say. A maid's silence could hide a multitude of truths. Poirot paced, his shoes clicking on the parquet. The scratched lock suggested a duplicate key, perhaps crafted in secret. The candelabrum's fall, deliberate yet clean, implied a staged scene. The laudanum-laced brandy confirmed poison, but the locked door was the puzzle's core. Eleanor's midnight alibi, Hargrove's late visit, Beatrice's quarrel, Maggie's testimony, all conflicted subtly. Victor Crane's absence from the library that night, as he claimed, felt too convenient. The burned letters fragments, betrayal, shares, hinted at a motive tied to business, yet the personal grudges of the household loomed large. The blizzard howled outside, its snow piling against the windows. Poirot paused, his mind alight. The shadow Maggie saw, twice now, suggested someone had braved the storm. A witness or the killer? The lock's scratch was no accident, and the door's secret was the key to the crime. He turned to the group, his voice calm but piercing. "Mes amis, someone entered this room and left it locked, but could they have slipped out unseen?" The question hung, unanswered, as the snow deepened, guarding the manor's secrets. Chapter 6. The Ghostly Whispers. The blizzard's wail enveloped Winthrop Manor, its snow-laden gusts weaving a fortress of isolation around the estate. Within, Hercule Poirot ascended the creaking attic stairs, drawn by Maggie Dunham's trembling tales of ghostly footsteps overhead. The air was thick with dust and secrets, the attic a shadowed maze of crates and forgotten relics. Cobwebs draped the rafters, and portraits of stern Winthrop ancestors glared from the gloom. Poirot's polished shoes stirred faint clouds of dust, his green eyes scanning for truth amid the manor's myths. The Winthrop curse, a vengeful spirit haunting the family line, had unnerved the household, but Poirot saw only human machinations. His grey cells buzzed, seeking the thread that tied the locked library to this dusty refuge. Maggie's stories of spectral sounds had spread panic, and Poirot, ever sceptical, sought to dispel the supernatural fog. He moved carefully, his flashlight cutting through the dimness, revealing nothing but moth-eaten drapes and cracked furniture. Yet a loose floorboard near a portrait of a grim-faced Winthrop caught his eye. He pried it open, revealing a small, empty vial, its label faint but legible, laudanum. Poirot's moustache twitched. This was no ghost's doing. The vial confirmed the poison detected in the library's brandy decanter. Someone had hidden it here, far from prying eyes, to mask a murder, but who? Poirot summoned Beatrice Langley to the drawing-room, her fiery presence clashing with the manor's chill. "Mademoiselle," he said, holding the vial aloft, "you dismiss the curse, yet this suggests a human hand. What do you know of laudanum in this house?" Beatrice's eyes narrowed, her auburn curls glinting. Uncle Reginald hated sedatives. If there's laudanum, it's not his. She paused, her voice sharp. "Eleanor's been nervous lately. Perhaps she used it." Her accusation was bold, but Poirot noted her quick deflection. Beatrice's disinheritance fueled her rage, yet her candour made her an enigma. Was she pointing fingers to obscure her own guilt? Eleanor Winthrop entered, her morning gown stark against her pale face. "Madame," Poirot said, his voice gentle but probing, "this vial was hidden in the attic. Did your husband use laudanum?" Eleanor's handkerchief twisted tightly. "Never, monsieur. He despised it." Her denial was swift, but her eyes flickered with unease. Poirot pressed further. "And you, madame, have you taken it for nerves?" Eleanor stiffened. "No, I manage without." Her hesitation was telling. Her inheritance made her a suspect, and the vial's discovery raised questions of access. Could she have poisoned the brandy, staging the curse? Dr. Malcolm Hargrove, summoned next, adjusted his spectacles nervously. "Doctor," Poirot said, "you prescribed laudanum, oui?" Hargrove nodded, his voice strained. "Yes, for Sir Reginald's insomnia, but he rarely took it. I keep my supply locked." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Yet this vial was hidden, empty. Who had access to your bag?" Hargrove faltered. "No one, I thought." His unease suggested a lapse. and Poirot wondered if his medical knowledge had been exploited, or if he was complicit. Maggie Dunham lingered in the hall, her hands trembling as Poirot beckoned her. "Mademoiselle," he said softly, "you spoke of footsteps in the attic. Did you see anyone there?" Maggie's eyes dropped, her voice a whisper. "No, sir, only heard them. Late at night, before it happened." Poirot leaned closer. "And the argument you heard, who was it?" Maggie shook her head, fear etched in her face. "I don't know, sir." Her silence was a wall, but Poirot sensed she guarded a truth. The attic's dust, disturbed by faint footprints, suggested someone had been there recently. Victor Crane, lounging in the drawing-room, offered a weak alibi. "I was in my room, writing letters," he claimed, his cufflinks gleaming. Poirot's smile was thin. "Yet, monsieur, a letter in the fireplace speaks of betrayal. Were you involved?" Victor's grin faltered. "Business disputes, nothing more." His debts made him a suspect, and the vial's discovery tightened the noose. Poirot paced, the attic's secrets weighing on him. The laudanum confirmed murder, but the footprints, slight, almost invisible, hinted at a careful intruder. The snow outside deepened, its chill seeping into the manor. Poirot returned to the attic, tracing the footprints in the dust. They led to the vial's hiding place, then vanished. A woman's shoe, perhaps, or a man's small foot. The curse was a distraction, but the vial was real. Beatrice's accusation, Eleanor's denial, Hargrove's unease, Victor's lies, Maggie's fear, each was a piece of the puzzle. The blizzard howled, as if mocking his progress. Poirot paused, his voice cutting the silence. "Someone walked this attic hiding the poison. Whose footprints betray the killer?" Chapter 7. The Broken Alibi. The blizzard's relentless howl cocooned Winthrop Manor, its snow piling higher against the frost-etched windows, as if conspiring to guard the estate's secrets. In the drawing-room, Hercule Poirot stood before the assembled household, his compact frame radiating authority, his green eyes piercing beneath his waxed moustache. The fire's glow cast flickering shadows across the faces of Eleanor Winthrop, Dr. Malcolm Hargrove, Beatrice Langley, Victor Crane, and Maggie Dunham, each a study in guarded unease. The Winthrop curse lingered in the air, a spectral distraction, but Poirot's grey cells focused on human deceit. The laudanum vial, the scratched lock, the burned letter, all pointed to murder, and now the alibis were crumbling. Poirot turned first to Victor Crane, whose polished cufflinks gleamed as he shifted uncomfortably. "Monsieur Crane," Poirot said, his voice smooth but incisive, "you claim you were writing letters the night of the murder, oui?" Victor nodded, his smile forced. "Yes, in my room, all evening." Poirot held up a charred envelope from the library's fireplace, its date smudged but legible. 2 days prior. Yet this letter, monsieur, is incorrectly dated. A strange error for a man so occupied. Victor's grin faltered, sweat beading his brow. A mistake, nothing more. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Victor's debts and the burned letters' talk of betrayal painted him as a liar, desperate to save his failing empire. Beatrice Langley, her auburn curls catching the firelight, scoffed. "He's hiding something, Monsieur Poirot. Victor's been bleeding Uncle Reginald dry." Her accusation drew a sharp glance from Victor, but Poirot raised a hand. "Mademoiselle, your own confrontation with Sir Reginald that night, did it end peacefully?" Beatrice's eyes blazed. "I told him he was wrong to disinherit me, but he was alive when I left." Her passion was convincing, yet Poirot wondered if her rage had spilled into violence. Her disinheritance was a potent motive, and her candour could be a clever mask. Eleanor Winthrop sat rigidly, her morning gown stark against her pale face. Poirot's gaze softened but remained probing. "Madame, you saw your husband at midnight, then retired. Yet I have learned of your meetings with a lawyer. Why?" Eleanor's handkerchief twisted tightly, her voice faltering. "It was private matters, nothing to do with Reginald's death." Poirot tilted his head. "Private, yet urgent, before his murder." Eleanor's eyes widened, her composure cracking. Her inheritance, control of Winthrop Industries, made her secrecy suspicious. Had she planned to secure her future before Sir Reginald's death? Dr. Malcolm Hargrove adjusted his spectacles, his scholarly air fraying. "Doctor," Poirot said, "your laudanum prescription is curious. Your medical bag contains none, yet an empty vial was found in the attic. How so?" Hargrove's hands twitched. "I keep my supplies locked. Someone must have taken it." Poirot's smile was thin. "And your visit to Sir Reginald at 1 a.m. He was agitated, you say?" Hargrove nodded, uneasy. "Yes, business worries, I think." His vague answers and access to poison made him a suspect, yet his nervousness suggested fear, not guilt. Was he shielding someone? Maggie Dunham lingered in the shadows, her trembling hands betraying her fear. Poirot approached gently. "Mademoiselle, the argument you heard at 2 a.m. You recognized the voice, no?" Maggie's eyes dropped, her whisper barely audible. I'm not sure, sir." Her silence was a fortress, but Poirot sensed a crack. The attic footprints, the laudanum vial, the scratched lock, all pointed to a killer among them, and Maggie's fear held a key. Had she seen more than she dared admit? Poirot paced, his polished shoes clicking on the parquet, his mind weaving the clues. Victor's false alibi unravelled under scrutiny, suggesting he was in the library later than claimed. Eleanor's secret meetings hinted at a motive beyond grief. Hargrove's missing laudanum raised questions of negligence or complicity. Beatrice's anger was raw, but her story held. Maggie's silence, though, was the loudest clue. Her fear spoke of knowledge. The burned letters fragments, betrayal, shares, suggested a business deal gone sour, but personal grudges loomed larger. Outside, the blizzard softened, its snowdrifts hinting at a clearing sky. Poirot paused by the window. The shadow Maggie saw still a mystery. Was it a witness or the killer's mistake? The laudanum, the lock, the argument, all were pieces of a puzzle nearing completion. He turned to the group, his voice calm but piercing. "Mes amis, the alibis crumble and the truth emerges. Madame Winthrop, what did you hide from your lawyer?" Eleanor's gasp echoed in the silent room, as the snow outside whispered of secrets yet to be uncovered. Chapter 8. The Final Clue. The blizzard's grip on Winthrop Manor softened, its snowdrifts gleaming under a tentative dawn, yet the air within remained thick with suspicion. Hercule Poirot stood in the library, where Sir Reginald Winthrop's blood still stained the rug. A grim reminder of murder. The shattered brandy glass and toppled candelabrum lay untouched, silent witnesses to a staged crime. Poirot's green eyes, sharp beneath his waxed moustache, lingered on the desk, where a hidden compartment had yielded a new clue. A signed contract, dated the day of the murder, transferring Winthrop Industries shares to Victor Crane. The document's ink was fresh, its implications explosive. Poirot's grey cells hummed, weaving the threads, laudanum, scratched lock, burned letter, into a tapestry of deceit. The Winthrop curse was a myth, but this contract was real, and it pointed to a killer. Poirot summoned Victor Crane to the drawing-room, holding the contract aloft. "Monsieur Crane," he said, his voice smooth but cutting, "this suggests Sir Reginald planned to save your failing empire. Why hide it?" Victor's cufflinks glinted as he shifted, his smile strained. "It was a private deal, Monsieur Poirot. Nothing sinister." His voice wavered, betraying desperation. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Victor's debts made the contract a lifeline, but the burned letter's talk of betrayal suggested Sir Reginald had reconsidered. Had Victor killed to secure his fortune? "Yet," Poirot pressed, "you lied about your whereabouts. Where were you at 2 a.m.? Victor stammered, "In my room, as I said." The lie was crumbling. Beatrice Langley burst in, her auburn curls bouncing, her voice fierce. "He's lying, Monsieur Poirot. That contract proves Victor had everything to gain." Her accusation stung, and Victor's face reddened. Poirot raised a hand. "Mademoiselle, you confronted your uncle that night. Did you know of this deal?" Beatrice's eyes blazed. "I knew he was signing something, but not what. I begged him to reconsider my disinheritance, but he refused. He was alive when I left." Her passion was raw, yet Poirot wondered if her rage had turned lethal. Her motive, revenge, was as potent as Victor's greed. Eleanor Winthrop, poised by the fire, clutched her handkerchief as Poirot turned to her. "Madame, this contract changes the inheritance. Were you aware?" Eleanor's face paled, her voice faint. "No, Reginald never mentioned it." Her denial was quick, but Poirot recalled her secret meetings with a lawyer. Was she protecting her fortune or hiding complicity? "And the brandy, madam, who poured it?" Eleanor hesitated. "Maggie, but it sat on the sideboard." The laudanum-laced brandy pointed to poison, and Eleanor's evasion tightened Poirot's suspicions. Dr. Malcolm Hargrove adjusted his spectacles, his scholarly air fraying. "Doctor," Poirot said, "your laudanum vial was found in the attic. Did you know of this contract?" Hargrove shook his head, uneasy. "No, but Reginald was stressed. It could explain his heart." Poirot's smile was thin. Yet poison, not his heart, killed him. Hargrove's access to laudanum and vague alibis made him a suspect, but his nervousness suggested fear, not guilt. Was he a pawn or a player? Maggie Dunham lingered in the shadows, her hands trembling. Poirot beckoned her gently. "Mademoiselle, you poured the brandy, oui? And you saw someone near the library at 2 a.m. Maggie's eyes widened, her voice a whisper. "Yes, sir. It was Mr. Crane." The room stilled, Victor's face draining of colour. "That's impossible," he protested. Maggie flinched but continued. "I saw him, sir, by the library door, after the argument." Poirot's grey cells sparked. Maggie's testimony contradicted Victor's alibi, placing him at the scene. Had he used a duplicate key to enter and poison the brandy? Poirot paced, his polished shoes clicking on the parquet. The contract was a motive. The laudanum the weapon, the scratched lock the method. Victor's presence at 2 a.m. tightened the net, but Eleanor's secrecy, Beatrice's rage, Hargrove's access, and Maggie's fear all lingered. The attic footprints, small, possibly a woman's, added complexity. The shadow Maggie saw outside, twice now, suggested a witness or a killer's error. The blizzard outside was clearing, but the manor's secrets were still shrouded. Poirot turned to the group, his voice calm but piercing. "Mes amis, the contract reveals greed, the poison reveals intent, and the lock reveals cunning. But who held the duplicate key to the library?" The question hung, unanswered, as Victor's protest died in his throat. Eleanor's eyes darted, and Maggie's hands shook. The truth was near, and the snow-dark manor held its breath. Chapter 9. The Gathering Storm. The blizzard's roar had softened to a murmur, its snowdrifts gleaming under a pale Yorkshire dawn. But within Winthrop Manor, a storm of truth was brewing. Hercule Poirot stood in the drawing room, his compact frame commanding the space, his green eyes glinting beneath his waxed moustache. The fire crackled, casting shadows across the faces of Eleanor Winthrop, Dr. Malcolm Hargrove, Beatrice Langley, Victor Crane, and Maggie Dunham, each a portrait of unease. The Winthrop curse, a spectral tale of vengeance, had haunted their minds, but Poirot's grey cells had stripped it bare, revealing a murder cloaked in myth. The laudanum-laced brandy, the scratched lock, the hidden contract, all pointed to a killer among them, and Poirot was ready to unmask them. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice calm but piercing, "the curse is a lie, a clever veil for murder. Sir Reginald was poisoned, his death staged to seem supernatural." He held up the empty laudanum vial from the attic, its glass catching the firelight. This, mixed in his brandy, caused his collapse. The locked library? A trick, achieved with a duplicate key. The room stilled, eyes darting. Eleanor's handkerchief twisted tightly. Hargrove's spectacles glinted nervously. Beatrice's glare hardened. Victor's smile faded, and Maggie's hands trembled. Poirot paced, his polished shoes clicking on the parquet, weaving the clues into a damning narrative. He turned to Victor Crane, whose cufflinks no longer gleamed with confidence. "Monsieur Crane, your contract for shares gave you motive, and Maggie saw you near the library at 2 a.m., contradicting your alibi." Victor's face paled. "I was there, yes, discussing business, but he was alive." Poirot's smile was thin. The burned letter's talk of betrayal suggested Victor's desperation, yet his panic seemed genuine. Was he a scapegoat or a cunning liar? Beatrice Langley's voice cut through. "He's guilty, Monsieur Poirot. Victor stood to gain everything." Poirot raised a hand. "Mademoiselle, your own rage at disinheritance is a motive. You confronted Sir Reginald. Did your anger turn deadly?" Beatrice's eyes blazed. "I fought with him, but I didn't kill him." Her candour was compelling, but Poirot noted her clenched fists. Her motive was strong, yet her passion felt like truth. Eleanor Winthrop flinched as Poirot's gaze fell on her. "Madame, your secret meetings with a lawyer suggest you feared a change in the will. Did you act to secure your inheritance?" Eleanor's voice wavered. "I only sought advice, nothing more." Her denial was frail, and Poirot recalled her access to the brandy decanter. Her fear hinted at guilt, or perhaps knowledge of another's crime. Dr. Malcolm Hargrove adjusted his spectacles, his voice unsteady. "Doctor," Poirot said, "your laudanum vial was found hidden, and your late visit to Sir Reginald places you at the scene." Hargrove shook his head. "I prescribed it, yes, but I didn't use it." His unease suggested negligence, not murder, but Poirot wondered if he concealed a deeper role. Maggie Dunham stood apart, her trembling hands betraying a secret. Poirot approached gently, his voice soft but unrelenting. "Mademoiselle, you poured the brandy, heard the argument, saw the shadow. Yet you say nothing. Why?" Maggie's eyes filled with tears, her whisper barely audible. I can't, sir." Poirot's grey cells sparked. Her silence was not fear alone. It was guilt. The attic footprints, small and light, matched her frame. The laudanum vial, hidden where only a servant might tread, pointed to her. But why? What drove the quiet maid to murder? Poirot paced, the clues aligning. The laudanum, administered in the brandy, the scratched lock, opened by a duplicate key, the candelabrum, toppled to stage a struggle. Victor's greed, Beatrice's rage, Eleanor's secrecy, Hargrove's access, all were red herrings, distracting from the truth. Maggie's trembling hands, her overheard argument, her attic visits, these were the threads of guilt. The shadow outside, seen twice, was no witness but a reflection of her movements, caught in the storm's chaos. Poirot's voice rose, commanding attention. "The killer is here, mes amis, and their motive is not what you think." He paused, his gaze locking on Maggie. "Mademoiselle Dunham, your silence speaks loudest. The footprints, the vial, the key, all point to you. But what drove you to such desperation?" Maggie's sob broke the silence, her hands covering her face as the room gasped. The blizzard outside faded, but the manor's truth was laid bare, waiting for her confession to seal the case. Chapter 10. The snow-dark truth. The blizzard had relented, its snowdrifts gleaming under a pale Yorkshire sun. But Winthrop Manor's drawing room held a chill no fire could warm. Hercule Poirot stood at its centre, his compact frame a beacon of clarity, his green eyes piercing beneath his waxed moustache. The household, Eleanor Winthrop, Dr. Malcolm Hargrove, Beatrice Langley, Victor Crane, and Maggie Dunham, sat in tense silence, their faces etched with dread. The Winthrop curse, a tale of spectral vengeance, had been unmasked as a lie, its shadows dispelled by Poirot's logic. The laudanum vial, the scratched lock, the hidden contract, the attic footprints, all converged on a single truth. Poirot's grey cells had triumphed, and now he would reveal the killer. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice calm but commanding. "Sir Reginald Winthrop was murdered, not by a curse, but by a cunning hand. The brandy, laced with laudanum, caused his collapse. A duplicate key unlocked the library, and the candelabram's fall staged a struggle." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. Eleanor's handkerchief trembled. Hargrove's spectacles glinted nervously, Beatrice's eyes burned. Victor's smile was gone, and Maggie's hands shook uncontrollably. "The clues," Poirot continued, "point to one among you, overlooked yet central." He turned to Victor Crane, whose cufflinks no longer shone with confidence. "Monsieur Crane, your debts and the contract for shares made you a suspect, but your panic was fear, not guilt." Victor exhaled, his face ashen. Poirot faced Beatrice. "Mademoiselle Langley, your rage at disinheritance was real, but your candour clears you." Beatrice's shoulders sagged, relief mingling with defiance. To Eleanor he said, "Madame, your secret meetings with a lawyer suggested greed, but you feared betrayal, not murder." Eleanor's eyes widened, her denial silent. Hargrove fidgeted as Poirot addressed him. "Doctor, your laudanum and late visit raised suspicion, but you were negligent, not criminal." Hargrove's head bowed, shame evident. Poirot's gaze settled on Maggie Dunham, her trembling form shrinking under his scrutiny. "Mademoiselle Dunham," he said softly, "your silence was the loudest clue. The attic footprints, small like yours, the laudanum vial, hidden where only a servant treads, and your fear betray you." Maggie's sob broke the silence, her hands covering her face. The room gasped, eyes turning to the maid who had faded into the manor's shadows. Poirot's voice softened, but his words were relentless. "You poured the brandy, knew Sir Reginald's habits, and held a duplicate key crafted in secret. But why, mademoiselle? What drove you to murder?" Maggie's tears fell, her whisper ragged. "It was my brother, Tom. He worked in Sir Reginald's factory. 5 years ago, a machine crushed him, faulty. But Sir Reginald ignored the warnings, Tom died, and I was left with nothing." Her voice broke, years of grief spilling forth. "I served here, silent, watching him prosper while I buried my pain. Then I heard of the contract. Shares to Victor, leaving me nothing, not even my wages secured. I couldn't bear it." The room was still, her confession a thunderclap. I took the laudanum from Dr. Hargrove's bag, mixed it in the brandy, used the key I'd made. The candelabrum fell when I rushed out, a mistake. Poirot nodded, his eyes sombre. You staged the curse, mademoiselle, knowing the household's fears. The shadow outside was your reflection, caught in the storm as you fled. Maggie collapsed, sobbing. I didn't mean for it to go so far. I just wanted justice. Beatrice's gasp, Eleanor's stunned silence, and Victor's pale shock filled the room. Hargrove looked away, guilt for his negligence etched in his face. Poirot paced, his polished shoes clicking on the parquet. The clues were clear. The laudanum, the scratched lock, the footprints, the contract. The curse was a distraction, exploited by a heart hardened by loss. He turned to Maggie, his voice firm but kind. You will face justice, mademoiselle, but your truth is heard. The constable, summoned as the snow cleared, waited in the hall. Maggie rose, her head bowed, as the household watched in silence. Outside the snow sparkled, the blizzard's grip broken. Poirot stood by the window, the manor's shadows lingering in his mind. The case was solved, the killer unmasked, but the cost of vengeance weighed heavy. Mon Dieu, he murmured, the human heart is the darkest mystery. The truth, as cold and sharp as the Yorkshire snow, had prevailed, but the manor's wounds would not soon heal.